One of the things that growing up in the construction business, we've been in business now for 43 years. I've had a front row seat for how construction technology has changed over that 43 years. For instance, when I was a kid, one of the things that I got taught was, how to tie a ribbon on a grade stake and not let it come off. Seems pretty simple and old school, but we don't have to do that now because all the technology's in the machines. There are no more grade stakes per se. So I've really seen the technology improve and change and all that, but there are just certain things in our business that technology just seems to never change. For instance, how many different ways are there to dig a ditch? Well, not many, but rock removal, particularly mechanical rock removal, is one of the things that I didn't think there'd ever be a technology advancement that would make it fun, for lack of a better term. We use what are called hydraulic breakers, hole rams, whatever. There's many different terms they've been called through the years, but absolutely despised rock jobs because they were slow and monotonous, and operators sit there in that cab running a hammer and listen to that ting, ting, ting all day long, and they'd come out and you'd think, what the heck, what a boring way to spend a day. When I first saw an EK150 chain cutter at the Utility Expo in 2021, I looked at that attachment and thought, that looks like a quantum leap. Let's see if it works. So I rented one, and that very first job was a warehouse job in Sellersburg, Indiana. I had about 3 weeks budgeted to take a mechanical removal process, or a hole ram, and get the rock out of this fire line that I was installing. Well, we took the EK150 over there, and what we had 3 weeks to do, we finished in somewhere around 3 to 5 days. I forget exactly, but it was astounding how much faster. But it really wasn't the speed that got me all excited. The fact was, I took all the spoils from the trench and I put them back in the trench, so I didn't have a lot of cleanup. I also, when I had to be 6, 8, 10 foot deep for some of these lower crossings where we would cross under other utilities, I didn't have a trench that was 9, 10, 11 foot wide at the top that you have to backfill with money. So my first experience with the EK150 was amazing, and one thing led to another, and I had 3 weeks scheduled to do mechanical rock removal around this warehouse in Sellersburg, Indiana, and we did it in 6 days. There are a lot of problems with old school mechanical rock removal, i.e. hole rams. For one thing, a hole ram is designed to destroy itself. It's just a big hammer running on gas and hydraulic oil, and it just beats itself to death. So people that run hydraulic hammers or hydraulic breakers on a normal basis or every day, they're very used to seeing it torn down on their shop floor. Yeah, if you walk out in your own shop right now and you see a hydraulic hammer in pieces on the floor and you are waiting for parts, it drives you insane. It's all you see is the time that you're losing. You're seeing the money, the check that you're going to write for the parts that you don't have yet. One of the advantages to these EK chain cutters and all KEMROC cutters versus the hydraulic hammers is that you can run them underwater. Anybody that's run a hydraulic hammer like I have knows that the minute you put a hydraulic breaker in a wet situation, it's going to go down. They cannot handle the water. You spend a lot of time, with pumps and labor and everybody trying to de-water a trench just so that you can get down there and get that last 18 inches of rock out. With a KEMROC cutter, you don't have to worry about that. You just go do it. The water doesn't make any difference whatsoever. Another problem that I'm sure you have with hammers is that there's no versatility to a hammer. I mean, a hole ram is a hole ram, whether it's a small one on a little Cat 416 backhoe or if it's a 14,000 pound hammer on a 50-ton excavator, it's still a hammer. I mean, it still just does the same thing. It goes out there and pokes holes and beats itself to death. Some people ask me, well, what is the best attachment then, the best KEMROC attachment for me to use? Well, that's where KEMROC's got the hole ram industry beat, is because there's a different attachment for different uses. And as contractors in rock excavation projects, we've never had the luxury of choosing a different tool to do a slightly different job. So For example, I talk a lot about the EK series. That's the chain cutters. That's the very first thing that I saw, and that's what caught my attention and said, hey, this is different. So the EK chain cutters are really good for trenching. I have also used them on mass rock cuts where instead of using a pre-split, a blast pattern, I pre-split or cut the edge and then cut all the rock out of the center. So the chain cutter's got a lot of different uses, but primarily it's just beautiful when it comes to doing trench work. But let's say you are working on a mass rock project. We did one in Shelbyville, Kentucky. We had 60,000 cubic yards of mass rock that we had intended to blast. For many different reasons, I kind of manipulated that project around to where I could use my fleet of cutters instead. The drum cutters that we used on this project are predominantly for mass rock. And then the best attachments really depend on what you want to use them for. If you're in a trenching situation, you're laying sanitary sewer, you're laying water main, a chain cutter is almost always going to be the fastest, most productive tool to get that job done. If you are in a situation where you need a trench or let's say you're doing a bore pit, you don't really want to use a chain cutter on a bore pit, although you can cut the perimeter with the chain cutter. But then you take one of these that are sitting behind me, a drum cutter, and it's far more effective for mass rock because you can take that attachment and swing it side to side and cover a broader area and not waste the wear and tear on your chain, on your EK chain cutter, like you do if you're in a trenching situation.